We're going to do precision policing. We're going to do precision resources. Because we know who's on the pathway to get into violence. So why not catch them before they get into violence and give them the resources they deserve? So I would love for you to sit down with Phil Banks, my Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, and go through the training that you're talking about. And if we have to modify our training, we look forward to doing so.
Hey, I just wanted to touch a little bit on when we were discussing macro and long term. A bit. So, and Jessica touched on this too. When we're talking about gun violence, it's a structural issue, right? So by the time that trigger was pulled, that gun violence happened way before that moment, right? So whether it's my schools are under-resourced, I'm having domestic violence happening in the home. When I go to the hospital, my services are inadequate. When I try to get food, like that's also inadequate. And I think that even with the pandemic, and we could all agree that once that happened, a lot of that was exposed even further, right? All of these systemic issues that we're having. So I think that if we're looking at this from a macro level, we really need to keep the button, like when we're talking about precision resources, Ms. Mayor, also making sure that we're keeping our finger on that button to like continue to pour into that. And like, so for 2 examples specific to the crisis management system, when we're talking about like school conflict mediation and youth enrichment services, I think a lot of supports could come from the administration on allowing the credible messengers to be able to do their work in the schools. Are there some schools that completely buy into the model and they have a good time and it's productive? Sure, but there are also schools where that's a little bit more tougher. So I think having a little bit more support from the administration to allow the DOE to really continue to believe in this and bolster this work within the schools would be super important, because we know a lot of what happens in the community goes into the schools and vice versa. So I think long-term and expansion, and I don't know these, I know these conversations are already happening, so I don't want to say that they're not. They are, but I just want to make sure that we're keeping our finger on that button, because the schools are super important. It's vice versa in there. So really getting that support from the administration to really push on DOE to have them respect this work, allow this work to happen, and really have a real conversation about what's working, how is it working. Even before ever working at the administration, I worked at 2 cure violence sites, and I've seen it, I've seen it work, but I've also seen those conversations of like, well, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I've seen when a school buys into it, they identify those young people that are giving the most trouble, they put them in a room together, and they build. And when that's happened, we've seen a lot of success. Secondly, also bringing in a little bit of the DV or even general interpersonal violence stuff. Having some of that in the schools in an intentional way with credible messengers could be super helpful. So I know we're starting that, actually in Brooklyn, we're starting that a little bit more in the Flatbush area, where we're having RISE go into the schools and talk to people generally about how do you have a healthy relationship. Because I think when you know how to have a healthy relationship, it goes into your intimate relationships. It also goes into friends and family. And when we know how to care about each other and respect each other and talk about our emotions in a way that's productive and meaningful, there can be a lot that can happen there. So just thinking about that, like on a macro level in that conversation, that's what came to mind.
We believe, those who have heard me say it over and over again, it's about building an emotional intelligence. How do we communicate and how we identify our emotion and the emotions of others. And we're fortunate, I picked an amazing chancellor. And, we're looking at because we have to deal with intervention and prevention. We got to always keep that in mind. While we are building up those things that have a holistic approach and we take down those intervention, you can't move away intervention and all of a sudden, say that, hey, things are going to turn out well, because, shootings are going on now. Mm-hmm. And so what we're going to do, we see even the decrease in school safety agents while we increase crisis management inside our schools. Mm-hmm. That's part of our plan. Mm-hmm. We're not moving our school safety agents overnight, but we see that we can start changing the flow of things. And then I'm going to allow my school safety agents to be promoted into the police department after 2 years of exemplary service. So as we're making these transitions, because a lot of people don't realize the overwhelming number of school safety agents are black and brown women. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing, their relationship with these children are remarkable. They are seeing these children who are having problems with clothing, bringing them clothing to school, food to school, talking to them, being these surrogate parents. And I think after having 2 years of doing that in the school system, you're ready to go to the NYPD, but we've closed that door, and I want to change that. So I want the presence of my crisis management team dealing with conflict resolutions, interacting with these young people. But we have to do it where we're not just trying to turn this over overnight. Within 1 or 2 year period, I would love to see a greater presence because you're doing more than providing a safe environment. You start to nurturing these young people who really may not have that model at home. And so I'm with you. And Chancellor Banks is all in. We just had a meeting at Frederick Douglass Academy, which the chancellor was leading with a group of black men and their organization. So you're singing our song. We're all in. You want to say something, Congressman?
Yeah, two things. First on the funding, right? Microphone. The funding. I understand that the way the city works, it's sort of like not advantageous, so it's not friendly to organizations like many of the organizations that you run, because they want you to be reimbursed after you provide the services, and you don't have hundreds of millions of dollars. So that formula lends itself to like the big institutions like Columbia University, the people that have the consultants and the grant writers and the certified public accountants and the lawyers. But those organizations, those institutions don't have the grassroots connections that you have. But the system itself of the funding RFP system is not friendly to you. So that's something that has to be re-looked at, right? There has to be a deep dive there to see how these organizations could work with the grant that they get, and they don't have to sort of like put out the service before they get reimbursed, right? Because you just won't be able to do that, right?
We should look at that. You know what, Sheena? We should look at, because it's always been a setup. It's been a setup. And so we should examine that and see what are we capable of doing? Because I don't know if the law prevents us from doing something different. We may have to lean into our state senate and our city council, but the way it's set up, it has always been set up for other.
For the bigger,
it's not set up for this.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at it, have our legal team look at it, and say, Eric, this is what you have to change in the city council, or this is what you have to change in the state, so it could be more friendly to our style of what's done. It has never been friendly to it. It was always a broken system. You spend your money first, and then we reimburse you, and then we're going to wait a whole year to reimburse you. Then you're going to say, you know what, I'm not even doing this anymore. So we got to look at that. That's our commitment to look at it.
But like my grandmother used to say, the big, expensive broom may sweep better, but it can't get into the corner, right? It can't get into the corner to get that dirt out that's in the corner, right? You can get into the corner.
Right. And we could do probably, Sheena, on the short term. A lot of our corporate entities are asking how could they help. So if they put aside, a couple of $1 million to tie you over, and you just pay back no interest loan, you pay back, so you don't have to try to raise the money first. So we're zeroing in on this. So we're going to find ways to do so. And I also we have been speaking with a lot of our corporate entities. We should set up a conversation with sitting down with the partnership and all of our big corporations, Citibank, Goldman Sachs. They have been blowing our phone up saying, how do we help?
Right.
So we should get you in a room with them, do a presentation of what you're doing, and so that they can see, because I've been talking about you in every corporate boardroom that I'm in, and so we should set up to get them, bring some of these corporate leaders and come on the ground with you.
Come here,
But one last thing is regarding the monies for intervention, what you do, right? There's money in the Build Back Better program, like $5 billion for exactly what you do. But that's caught up in the politics of Washington right now, right? And we passed it out of the House, but the Senate is like... So we got to figure out a way, or how do we get that money, and maybe even through some of the private sector folks, right? So that you have access to dollars to do the work that you do. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. You can't wait for the politics to sort of like work itself out, because
Right, right.
You know, there's a dynamic there that, you know, it's
going
very
on now.
difficult. But
Right.
we understand, you know, I was in East Harlem with Senator Schumer, with groups over there that do the same thing you do. And there's money there for that, right? And they have those mobile units. I don't know if you have them here that come into the block. And just like you said, they could pinpoint to like the zip codes where they've been at and to see how violent crime has gone down there. But, you know, but we need to get you access to those dollars. And right now, that money that was assigned there is caught up in politics. So
Right.
we got to figure out, you know, how we
I
do
agree. I agree. We're going to take one or two more.
Can I just piggyback off what Sister was talking about regarding the school that you
see,
just
brother.
mentioned, Mr. Mayor, about prevention? And I think if we can start, Kwame and I just did something recently with the elementary school level. It was actually on the day, and I know most of us talk about the middle schools and the high schools, but I think if we can plant that seed to those 3rd and 4th graders. Kwame and I was doing an assembly, matter of fact, with some more community leaders on the day the 13-year-old got shot in the neck in the Bronx a few weeks ago. And just that kind of made an impact. And I believe just planting that seed is able to make a change in those young folk, their thinking. You know, because a lot of them, matter of fact, we had asked them questions about, you know, how many have seen violence, and you'd be surprised that everybody's hand went up. You know, I'm talking about in PS 121, that's over there on Allerton Avenue, and you'd be surprised at the little ones, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders. And I believe I've always been as I guess maybe it's the pastor in me, but I've always been a firm believer that if we can reach them when they're young, that, you know, that can be a preventive measure also.
Well said.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I just want to thank you for having this meeting. Thank you, Vanessa Gibson, all the council members, Jessica Rofield, everyone. So my name is James Dobbins. I work at Lincoln Hospital. It's the busiest trauma center in New York City. My job is to track all the gunshots, assaults, and stabbings. We have 3 components. You know, the intervention. We have so many gunshots, assaults, and stabbings. We work with SOS. We're the liaisons. They come in, they sit with the patients. You know, just to stop retaliation, we have a strong relationship with our community partners, SOS. And we have our internal hospital responders with victim crime services. The caskets we have to pick out for these people. There's family support groups with RTG and Pastor Henry. We have our family support group. So Guns Down Life Up, we work very well with the crisis management care violence system, and we have our credible messages on the ground also. The prevention component, you know, the gun is not fun in schools. From pre-K to 5 years old, putting in the people's psyche in the schools. You know, we're going to the schools right now. I echo everyone what they're saying as far as being present in the schools. We're in the schools. I think that's part of the solutions. I just want to get straight to the solutions right now. You know, our goal is to have credible messengers. You know, we talk to Bragg, we talk to all the crisis, you know, we talk to all the teams, to have ambassadors and representatives in all the NYCHA houses. We have to have a strong presence out there. You know, we have to have more feet, more boots on the ground. And we have ambassadors, which the mayor office is supporting. We're able to hire more people and put them on the ground and expand the model throughout all the NYCHA houses. That's one of the things I really believe that needs to be done actively as far as now solutions, as far as more boots on the ground. We also identified a safe haven, a space where we could talk more in depth. You know, because a lot of problems, some people can't come to Lincoln. Some people can't go to SOS. They can't go to Bragg because of the beef. And we have our hands-on on the pulse of some of the shootings. We have court mandates. We get referrals from the 40th precinct, the 41st precinct, from the local community members. They refer youth to us. We have our summer youth program. We believe in engaging the youth. The public hospital is so unique. You know, could we take kids from the Bronx? When I take them to Long Island, they're in awe with just the grass, showing the diversity. You know, being able to go to all 11 acute hospitals and 75 annexes, utilize the New York City Health and Hospital platform. We are housed in New York City Health and Hospital. This model should be replicated. We have people getting shot in all the hospitals throughout New York City. And we have an office here at Lincoln Hospital. I believe we should have it replicated throughout all the New York City hospitals, because we have the platform there. So we have a lot of ideas, and I just wanted to say thank you for this meeting. And we're here to work with everyone here, with the NYPD, all the crime violence system, CMS, and we just need to get more boots on the ground.
And when I met you in the Bronx, you were sharing what you were doing. And when I got home that night, I put your name and information in my journal so we could come back.
Yes.
And I love the idea of replicating what you're doing in all the H&H. Those are our hospitals,
Yeah.
you know. So Sheena, we should see about setting up a time where you could do a presentation with the team, and how do we replicate that in all of our H&H? Because you're right, you know, when folks get in these beefs, that's a great place to deal with retaliatory action. What we must do is that we must be your backup and support. We must make sure all of our agencies are tied into what you're doing. So when you walk into a hospital, that to stop the retaliatory shooting, they need to be welcoming you. You should not be alienated. If you reach out to the police and say, listen, something's about to jump off, they should not be trying to disrespect you. They should be finding out how do we help. So we want to make sure our city agencies are doing the job. We're going to have a workforce development plan. So you're in the street and someone is saying, man, you're trying to tell me to get off this corner, I need a job. You should be able to point them to our workforce development and get them a job. So what I want you to see that, you know, this is like, you know, this is an ET moment. You're no longer alone, man. We're in this together. Right. The services of this city, they're your services. And we want to make sure that everyone is on the same page, that you are Marines on the ground. You need the resources to do the job. And that is what we're going to acclimate our city agencies to understand. We could take one more, then I got to bounce.
I work with RTG, and I just think, you know, I live in the area that I work. I live 2 blocks from my office. And I just think it's the best way to help with the gang violence and stuff is to deal with the leaders of the gangs. Because if you have a faucet running, that water's going to keep running until you turn the knob to stop it from running. So if it's a way to work with the gang leaders and make them allies, because at some point, you know, you got to do different things. At some point, you got to make your enemies an ally to get past the violence that we're trying to get through, you know? So maybe a change from punishment to working with some of these leaders of the gangs and stuff can help, because even if you have a young kid in school, the young kid is going to look up to the older kids. And if the older kids is looking up to the gang leaders, then that's going to form a line that's just going to keep going. So at some point, you know, we should try to work with these gang leaders to try to stem the violence, because if the gang members are only listening to them, then the only way to stop it will be to work with them.
Okay. Just wanted to add another point, and I think many of you already are aware. Through the crisis management system, we've been able to forge more partnerships with the Department of Ed, where many of you have a physical presence in some of our middle schools. Chancellor David Banks often says this, and I agree with him, and I've said it as well. You know, the issue is not what's happening inside our schools. It's the path that young people have to take to get to school that is the problem. Being in the same neighborhoods where it's not safe. And that is attributed to why so many young people feel the urgent need to bring a weapon to school. It's because they're dealing with something in the neighborhood or potentially at home. And so as we talk about your specific catchment area and expanding, I also want to make sure we talk about expanding our footprint in schools. I would argue that it's even more important to start, as Pastor G has said, at the elementary school level, because we know sometimes it's further exacerbated by the time you get to middle school. So elementary school is the way that we should go to work with so many of our young people, work with the educators. A lot of our schools are now community schools, so there is a not-for-profit partner physically in that school. But whatever it is that we should be doing, it's really about that network on the school piece. Because sometimes I get really upset when some people think that the only answer to addressing violence in schools is the deployment of school safety agents. And I support our SSAs, and I know many of them. They are a part of the solution, but they're not the only solution. If you have a presence in our schools, with therapeutic services and wraparound services, and a lot of what we say is their social emotional learning, healing centers. That is a part of your work too. So I wanted to make sure that that's a part of our conversation, because expanding your footprint in our public schools is a part of keeping our children safe as well.
Okay,
I can just-
go ahead, sister, because you get a chance to talk.
I'm not going to be too long because I thank you guys for being here, and I send my love to the Bronx. My team was up here yesterday, and my heart goes out to you. But I want to say something. I enjoy being in your presence all the time because you get it. You understand and you know. The communication between the leaders of the organizations and our city agencies is what we need.
Yes,
That is
yes.
going to be the difference in making this change.
Yes.
When NYPD commanding officers are calling my phones on the weekends, I welcome it because they know the blocks that they have to watch. They know where they're at. They are a step ahead, right? So if you can call me and I can pull up my team and my team can be there, it works.
That's right.
It's preventative. We don't have to always react after the fact, right? I want to talk about the mobile units. The mobile units are important. I don't want my violence interrupters and the outreach workers in their cars. I need them in my units because NYPD identifies with my units. Department of Sanitation identifies with my units, right? So it's important when we talk about the red tape that we understand if, as crisis management organizations, if we're expected to have the results and we want to see the gun violence and the crime decrease in our communities, we have to be equipped with the resources, right? I can shut down blocks from selling drugs and having illegal activity, but what precision employment program am I sending them to? Right? How long is it going to take for me to get a referral for OSHA?
That's right.
Right? When we got all these buildings and construction sites coming up every day in our communities.
Right.
I need those guys on those construction sites. And I don't need to have to go through 8 different agencies and referrals to make that happen.
Right.
So there's a lot that we can do together as leaders of organizations because we know it. But if we don't have the tools and the resources and we don't keep the communication going, we won't be able to have the results that we're looking for, you know? So I don't have to keep going on and on because you said it. You said all of the agencies and the leaders are going to come together and continue to have conversations. I'm on sanitation every week. Listen, pick up the garbage in my hot spots.
Right,
because
right,
garbage
right.
allows for stash spots.
Right,
Right?
right.
Garbage allows for you to put guns in garbage.
Right.
So if I don't want people to have access to these guns, I need this garbage in my community cleared up. And I shouldn't have to wait on the 1-800 line for 45 minutes to get
right,
garbage out.
right.
So we need all of the organizations, all of its leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need all of the NYPD commanding officers. We need us to go through these catchment areas together. Are we even at the right spots?
Right,
Right?
right,
We
right.
need to make sure that we have the right information and that we're equipped with the right tools
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do this. And on the city council level, Vanessa, I love you. I appreciate everything you've done for CMS. But it's so important for our city council representatives to understand that it's the small mentorship funding that allows us to get in the school for the principal to be able to see our work, right? So when I come in, I'm not coming in as a stranger from CMS. I'm coming in as the organization that provides educational programming to your young people. So the relationships are already built. But if we don't have our city council representatives supporting our work the way that they can, then we don't have our state representatives like Zelena and Myrie supporting our work the way they can, then it takes years for these relationships to get built.
Right.
Right? And if organizations are putting in the work and we're out there and we're doing the right thing, it shouldn't take years for the resources to catch up to us.
Right. Well
So
said,
it's important.
Well
Thank
said,
you.
well said. And so let me tell you this because I was listening to you. So what we're going to do, Sheena, we're going to every agency in the city is going to have a crisis management liaison. Department of Sanitation, NYPD, HPD, HRA, DOE. Instead of you navigating the bureaucracy of an agency, every agency is going to have, when you pick up the phone, you're going to be calling someone. Let them navigate the bureaucracy. And we're going to set up a meeting, part of the crisis management team that we're going to do citywide. We're going to have on the Zoom, if we do a Zoom, if we're able to do it in person, we do it in person. We're going to have every commissioner that intersects with what you're doing. Because the average person would not even realize that Department of Sanitation plays a role. And so we're going to have those commissioners on the Zoom. They're going to see you. You're going to talk to them. You probably haven't even sat down with any of the commissioners outside the Office to Combat Gun Violence. So we can't say this is a holistic problem when you don't even know who the players are. Listen, if you don't walk away from anything in this table, walk away with this. Your power is in the agencies. The relationship is you pay your taxes, agencies provide goods and services. If you don't have access to those goods and services, then you're not empowered. If we open and unlock agencies to you, you're going to see a different game. That's the power. The power is in the agencies. All of these agencies, from PD to DOE to FDNY to Department of Sanitation to HPD, all of these agencies, DOT, you may just have, you want to close down the street to do a block party or anti-violence, and then you got to navigate PD, you got to navigate DOT, you got to navigate the organization that put together the block permit. Man, that's over. That's over. Those games are over. You reach out and say, we need to close down this block. That block is getting closed down, because you're on the ground. We're not playing this game anymore where agencies are running the city. No. Agencies are going to respond to what I need done to empower you to do your job. That's where we're going. That's the Adams era. I don't know what's going to happen after, but I know what's going to happen now. We got to go. I'm going to go visit this officer. Yes.
How you doing? Thank you for having us.
Thank you, brother.
So, I just one question, and I just need your support. And my condolences go out to the officer that got killed doing his line of work. I just need the officers to continue to let us do our work when we're dealing with the high risks out there, because it is difficult and we don't get that support on the 40th and 42nd precinct all the time, because one of my participants got tased when I was trying to talk to the officer to let me talk to the participant. So we're going to need that assistance to be able to do that work, because it's going to get hard. There's a lot of violence in the Bronx. So please talk to the officers when they see us out there engaging. Try to let us do that work. We know when to stand down if it's a killing going down or the participant got guns or whatever. We'll stand down, but most of the time we need that assistance so we can do our work, so they can respect us a little more and we can make those changes.
Without a doubt, brother. And I haven't heard this only from you. I heard it from others. And we're going to create a new synergy. You know, you both have two different ways of doing your job. You're not going to be able to do your job successfully if people believe you're an extension of the police department. You know, you're separate entities, but you have a common denominator. And the more that we communicate, you're going to be able to do your job. And that's just so important. And I hear it far too often that, you know, that relationship is not right. When you come on the scene, that inspector should be happy to see you. I have some inspectors, some captains, that are doing it right. They understand, hey, these guys are holding it down for me. I don't have to deal with it. And there's others that are not doing it right, and we're going to improve on that. You know how you improve on it the most? We're gauging promotions based on your ability to interact with your crisis management teams. If my crisis management teams are saying, listen, this cat is not flowing with us, and we can't get anything done, then listen, why am I going to keep moving you up through the rank and file? It's about how well you create relationships. And every community officer, you need to know all your crisis management team members. That's the relationship we are building. We're going to build a relationship where the team is rowing in the same direction. We're all rowing in different directions. Got to row in one direction to save our city, the streets. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.